Hello and welcome to Teching It Up with Mark. This comes from a question we have, and that was after the export list to Excel video, which takes a file or a list and exports it to Excel and lets you download the file right away. We want to save that file to a control, maybe send it out later on. So in this video, we're going to go through a method to do that by overwriting one of the methods that's in K2. This is completely unsupported, so this run at your own risk. It will probably not change, but if they do change things in the background through file upgrades and things like that, or through K2 upgrades, this will not work. Hope you enjoy, and yeah, stick with me. Thank you. Bye. So here I am in K2 Designer, and the problem we are trying to solve is when we use the export to Excel feature. Just to review that was here in the edit. We created a toolbar button. When we click the button, we are using the view rule to export to Excel. There's no configuration. Well, there is some configuration for row limits in all pages, but no output mapping for this. When we use this feature, as here, we get the file as a download. The problem is sometimes we want to save this file to K2 somewhere, maybe send it somewhere in a workflow or something like that. So we're going to look to do that in this video. Now, in order to do this, since this is not an out-of-the-box feature, we have to do this with a script. So if I go here to my view, I found, by doing way too much debugging, an export to Excel method. So export this to Excel. When we do this, well, let's see. When I click it, I can go to the function, and I could take a look at what's happening there. Now, the thing that I couldn't do on my own is fill in this n parameter here, whatever it is. When we debug this, so if I put this in here, and then I run this, then I could at least take a look at the object and stuff, and it looks like some instance ID. If I tried long enough, maybe I could figure out what this is, but I want to do this as simple as possible. It's already too complicated. So I'll take this, how do I clear all bugs? Okay, take this off. And what I did here is write my own override for this. Of course, this is not supported. I mentioned that once already in the intro. But let's go through this. So I have here this export to Excel function. Let's see if we can blow this up. No. How do we make this bigger? Doesn't look like we can. Hopefully you could take a look at the script itself. I'll check this in and link it below. So it's doing all the standard things here where it gets from this object, it gets the view HTML and some other information it needs, grid JSON. And then it's looking at some things. What it's doing here that is interesting is posting this data with this runtime Ajax call to K2, and yeah, waiting for this method to complete. When it actually completes, then we'll have an object, a blob. So let's take a look at what happened there. Jeez. So let me just go through that. What it actually calls here, if we go to network, it calls this method here, this file ashx method with this form data of the XXL. So this looks like a JSON value and the XSL file name. What it responds with is this looks like a blob, a binary large object, if you're not familiar with it. So just basically the ones and zeros of that document. And then from there, when we look at the original one, what it does, so we're looking in the case that it's not a mobile. So in this parameter here, we see this is actually like for mobile apps. Oh, right in here, actually. No, this is something else. Wow, this is confusing. You got to trust me on this one a little bit. But what we actually see is when we get this return from there, we have this object from, okay, this is what we're passing in, n, the return of it. And from there, so from this blob, we are creating an object URL. So basically a place where we can download that. So what I did before to look at this is, first we'll override this just to see how this works a little bit. So I'm taking this, I'm copying it from the source after I found it here. This is going to be way too deep for the one person that finds this video. I hope you enjoy it. All right, and I'm just going to take off the display none there so we could actually see this. And I'll actually also take away this remove and click here because we want to be able to see this URL. So this is pretty much what it's doing out of the box. But I'm just taking out the part where it creates an element and removes that. So I don't see that here, but if I go to elements, I see back in the script that where are we attaching this element? We see it's just appended to the body. So we can find the body element here, body, and it should be the last thing. I don't see it here. Oh, we might need to execute again after we change the method. Okay, so now we see the URL that they have here, and we have this blob link. So blob, htt, blah, blah, blah. And when I click on this, I see that I get the download or the blob. So we know what the function is, a little bit of what the function does. So it's calling this web method, this file ASHXH, and we got it again here, with this payload or whatever, with this form data of the rows in JSON and the file name, and it's returning to me a blob. From that, we're taking this response and using this method that I wasn't familiar with before looking at this, this create object URL, and creating a URL there for it, and then just automatically clicking for us with this click it, and then removing that, doing that all in the background. So what we're going to do instead of that, we're going to use all the same methods here. But since I couldn't figure this out, how to do it another way, we're going to send that blob data to another file handler and get a relative file path that we can use. This sounds confusing, and it is. If you want, you could probably just steal the script out there. But I need to set up some things for this. So first, here I have an attachment control because this is where we want to save it. So I call it file attachment. The naming here is very important. And what I'm also going to set up here is a data label to store some of this stuff because I don't know how to actually go directly to the file attachment control. If you figure out how to do that, please tell me. I'll name this DL file and I'll be able to refer to that in my script. All right, so let's take a look at the script itself. So here we have this beginning part of the script is the same as what we had there. Everything the same, everything the same. Calling this mysterious file handler ASHX. Coming back with this Q object that it creates the object URL for. So what we actually use to get the blob of the object. And then from there, I got my own thing. So from here, I'll just put in customized part. So from there, we're doing another fetch call. And this is going to this file handler, ASH. I found this out a while ago. So don't ask me everything how it works. Luckily, I had this noted down. So here we're putting in the file name, the date, and the data is this blob from before. Yes. Yep. So when we use this fetch, we're getting this blob and going to there. So we might be doing something extra here. I'm not sure. But when we actually get the response, so look at this response blob, a couple different things. Hopefully I got everything right here. But back to where I know what I'm doing. Once we got that here, we have this upload completed with the file path. So that's the path that we want here. We're just logging that. Then we're setting this up in XML. So let me just show you what this is here, what I got here. So here, when I upload a file, CSV, sure. Here, if I actually get the value of this control, we'll see that it's in this weird collection format. So let me actually do this again. I'm going to add another function here. Button from file to data label. So we could see what a file actually looks like in K2 and what's there. All right, saving it. And I'm also going to do one the other way around. From data label to file. I'm not English. I spell it like this. I don't even know what they spell it like that. All right. So I'm just doing transfer datas with here. So from file to data label, this will take whatever's in the file. So I'll just use a transfer data and put it into the data label. And this just allows us, so this is just extra debugging things that I'm doing here. So from file, okay, so I'm going to take what's in the file and put it into, what's in the file and put it into the data label, just so I see what's going on there. And then I'm going to do the opposite way around. From data label to the file, transfer data. So I want the data label will go into the file. There's got to be a simpler way to do this, but I'm just happy I figured it out at all. So let me refresh that. We'll go into this, add a CSV file. All right, so from file to data label. So what does this look like in the background? It looks like this weird bit of XML, right? And look at this, we have this file path here. That's what we're going for on this other request. We want to get this file path and put it in there. And in the background, we could see, we could see a lot of things, but we could see what we put in for a payload there. So we put in the file name and the actual data there. It's part of the form data. And the response we got, well, should be just the file path. I don't know why we're not loading it there. And that way we're able to set this. So hopefully we're not losing the plot here too much. Let me go back here. I'm going to put the full script in that we have. I'm going to refresh the page just to clean everything up. Put it in. So now we overrid the standard method. I click toolbar button, and now we have this in here. What we have, so we have a file path. We should see 2 calls in the console. Holy moly. Let me just redo this again. All right, so we'll go to the console, add our function, go to network, just clear this out, make it a little bit nicer for us. Click the toolbar button. This is the first one where we took in the data that it's doing. So this is part of the standard request to put in this JSON data, excuse me, and come back with the binary. And from that binary, we have sending it to an extra file handler. I might have something extra in here now. And I see the request payload. So this XML data or binary data, or you could see whatever format it's in. And then we have the request URL that we can put in there. So what we'll be able to do in that. So now if I go from the data label to the file, we have the file itself and the control. If I click on this just to verify it, it probably won't let me open it here. We'll open it with Notepad instead. Ooh, since it's XLSX, it looks a little bit funny, but we have the data there, so I'd have to actually do this in text or something like that. But I did try this on another machine, so it should be working correctly. All right, so now we have our function. We have to actually load it in the browser. We have some hidden things in the background. I just need to clean this up. So from this point on, if you want to, I'll make a spot in the video where you could skip to here if you just want to use the function. All right. So I'm going to delete this function with all the rules, because that was just to explain things. Delete this function with all the rules. I'm going to put in a data label. Now we're going to put this together for real. So first I need to add a data label for the script, and this will be called DL script. And this data label has to be literal and uncheck prevent SSS. We're going to set this to an expression. I did this several times, had a couple issues, and I'm going to add an expression here. Just call it export to Excel. Override. I have to put this in script tags here. So I'll do that, script, and then I'll paste in my script, make sure there's no comments, that everything always has a semicolon after it. This is what I missed for like 20 minutes that I'm going to cut out of the video, or I cut out of the video by the time you watch this. And now if I go to here, run the console, and I go to export to Excel, export list to Excel, click on it, double click, I could see my override here. So this extra stuff down here that I've done. All right, with that, if I test this, you could see it's adding the file there. So one other thing I have to do is when this changes, when the file changes, I'm just going to transfer data to the file control. Yes, there's probably a more elegant way to do this. Please tell me if you find it. So DL file will go to the file attachment. And I'll also make this not visible. Visible here. Okay. Refresh this. Final time. Toolbar button. We have this. And we have the Excel. All right. Once again, this is a complete hack. It's not supported. If something changes in K2 on upgrade, this might break. Use at your own risk, but it works. I'll put this script online. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know if there's anything else you would like to see a video on. Thank you. Bye.